I have a soft cliff. Whereas S's and C's won't do that. S's and C's, on the other hand, might not seize an opportunity where D's and I's would. Neither is good or bad. They're simply different. That's the beauty of diversity. Diversity isn't good or bad. It's just different. The application of those various skills and abilities and tendencies can be, in some situations, good or bad. And since we all have all of these tendencies in us to some degree, you can raise and lower any of them at any time if you simply think about it first. To the high S's, greetings are particularly important. They represent the start of a relationship or the start of a moment in a relationship. They represent an opportunity to learn more about an existing relationship. They're a chance to support another person by learning about them. Smiling, asking about somebody else's day or work or family is an effort to create a bond in the hands of a high S and to reconnect personally, both personally and professionally. High S's use, and then again, because they tend to use it, they tend to like it in return, warm, friendly greetings that are the beginning of a conversation. They ask questions. And by the way, Mike, don't you agree? The D's and C's in the audience go, oh my God. Oh, right now they're saying, oh yeah, I know that person. He wants to talk to me. He wants to get to know me. I don't care.
Yeah. I really don't have time to do this.
Right. Yeah.
But if you want to be effective with them, you're going to make time to do this. That's the point. Yeah.
They ask questions. They listen well to your answers, to our answers, and they follow up. They do not simply greet, but they greet to engage. So, I know you're going to ask me, right? Perfect greeting?
Perfect greeting. Yeah. What's a perfect greeting for a high S?
Yeah. How are you today? Deliver, how are you today? With a smile and a clear pause afterwards. Don't say, how are you today? Hope you had a good weekend, because then it's rhetorical. How are you today? And pause. And that essentially says, it's your turn to talk, and I'm going to be a respectful listener the way you are a respectful listener.
How about body language? Any difference in body language with a high S in particular?
Yeah. The mistake that we make is we tend to blow past them. Hey, how are you? And we walk right by them. Or they slow down if we're passing them in the hallway, going opposite directions. Hi, Mark. How are you? And as I'm walking by, looking over my shoulder, I'm fine. And I'm turning back and look at the documents in my hand, and they're like, oh, he just hurt my feelings. And I think to myself, I didn't hurt anybody's feelings. I just said good morning. But you didn't like what I said.
Right.
And, of course, then I think of Horstman's Law, which is how you feel is your fault anyway. And then I chastise myself and try to do better the next time. Because just like everybody who's listening, Mike and I are learning this stuff too. Because every day we make mistakes and we try to get better. But generally, we try to stop or we slow down when we're walking. And either we just turn to face them or we adjust our body language if we're not walking to indicate that the question is not just a throwaway greeting. It's not a line. And we're going to listen to their response. Now, look, we can do another cast at some point about how to disengage from a conversation you don't want to be in. That's fine. But we're talking about how to be effective with greetings right now. And something else, the addition of today, in other words, how are you today, is a small change that in our experience, particularly me, has had a surprising impact. It takes that question, the standard is how are you, it takes it out of the casually tossed off category and suggests that a specific response is what's wanted. It's how are you today? And it's better than, you're going to get a better response to how are you today than if you say how are you, because generically because how are you is a generic query, people are going to respond generically, which is to say fine. Now the high C's are going to say I'm fine. But if you're greeting a high S, the best one we know of is, how are you today? Now, look, you could also add other ones that are good. Good morning. Nice to see you. How are things? And again, notice more words here than in the D's and C's. We'll talk about the C's in just a second. Or we could say, so good to see you again. How have you been?
Yeah. Question every time too.
Yeah, every time a question. And notice, by the way, it's not just morning. It's good morning every time. And generally, again, more words. Look, a big part of any greeting to a high S is the willingness to wait for an answer. Remember, their greetings are part of the engagement of a conversation. Not listening to their answer is essentially ignoring their greeting after a fashion. Slow down. Show that you are slowing down by stopping your feet from moving. I'm saying that to the mirror right now. Be ready for more than a one-word answer, and be ready for his or her questions back to you.
Okay, so the last out of the four of the DISC profile, the high C, conscientious person.
Yeah, this is very similar to high D, short with a period. High C is the perfectionists of the world. They want things done right, which, by the way, usually means they do it themselves. They focus on work and processes. When things go wrong, they know why, usually because somebody else made a mistake because they weren't accurate enough and careful enough, and they don't value quality highly enough. And I can vouch for that. They're right. I don't. They like data. They prefer to analyze before speaking or deciding, or they prefer to analyze before analyzing some more, before getting some more data to make sure that the analysis was supported. I love picking on you, partner, by the way.
I know. Yeah, I'm.
Yeah, you're bearing it very well. You're bearing it very well in service to our audience, right?
Yeah,
Good.
We'll talk about it later.
Yeah. Slam.
Unlike high Ds, and I'm a high D, high C, so I know this, but we see greetings as part of our responsibilities to interact with others. And it's really a function of our role within the organization, right? And,
right.
And so we develop these coping mechanisms to do so. Now, they greet us because they have to, and we don't particularly intend to engage with folks most of the time.
Yeah. So folks like you, a high C, and similarly high Ds, tend to use and like short, flat greetings. They don't ask questions generally, and generally have less eye contact than others. High Ds often initiate and reciprocate handshakes. High Cs will generally not initiate them and reciprocate only when their hands are not full of documents, and then only because of form. The perfect high C greeting is, may sound familiar, morning, afternoon. No smile, no eyebrows, no tonal changes. And you know what? Since I picked on the D's and C's, let me pick on the I's and S's. I's and S's, this is an appropriate greeting. It's not a rude greeting. It's completely appropriate for a high D or a high C, particularly a high C. You don't need to deliver it in a sing-song voice. It's not the start of a song it's not a duet. We don't need long eye contact. Let's get right back to work. Don't ask me a question. I've probably already moved on from the interaction. I'm back to thinking about process improvements. Very simple. Morning, afternoon.
Sounds perfect to me.
Yeah, and the high C's say, why are we saying 20 words? This is efficiency in action. I know I have to greet you. I do care about you. I care about your workload. I care about your efficiency. I care about your effectiveness. I know you're a human being. I know you have a family. Good morning, or afternoon. And let's dismiss with the pleasantries and let's get down to work. Because we have competitors who don't want everything. They just want what's theirs and what's next to theirs. And we happen to be next to them, and we don't want them to have our stuff.
There you go. Now you got it.
Yeah, that sounds good, doesn't it? Yeah.
Okay. So, all right. So we've covered D, I, S, and C. Now we got to talk about the high DK, and we joke the don't know. And because we're going to run into people that we don't know. We haven't observed them a lot. We don't know what their profile is. And so then what do we do then?
Yeah, if you've never met them, you don't have a sense of their style, and you feel the need to greet, we're sitting next to this person, we're in a long elevator ride, we're sharing a cab, we're sitting beside them, we're attending an event, we're waiting in line together, whatever. A big open-ended question is probably too much for a high C or a high S. When I'm in a good mood and I ask a high I question of somebody, and I get back what I call a dead fish, and I think to myself, oops, there's a bad, this guy's a high C or perhaps a high S, my bad. On the other hand, a flat morning greeting may cause a high I or S to think we're a cold fish ourselves. So what I've discovered is that the answer here for a DK, we don't know what their profile is to combine our tendencies, state a short question without the tonal change that would normally make it a question in terms of how you would ask it. In other words, you eliminate the question mark. It's not a question anymore. Again, deliver without a great deal of inflection or a great deal of energy. I have used this particular greeting 10,000 times on airplanes, virtually every time I sit next to someone, and it works like a charm. I am amazed at the number of conversations I have with people that I'd never met before. And it is simply this: how are you today? That's all. It's not, how are you today? Right? You're not focusing on the today. You're not making it a question. You're just simply saying, how are you today? No big smile. The recipient might hear it as a question. And frankly, I would argue that the I's and S's will hear it as a question. Lucky them. The D's and C's will hear it as a greeting. Slightly longer when they want, but flat enough that they can tend to say, fine, thanks, you. And you say back, fine. And now you both are speaking the same language, and you've just been given an inordinate amount of clues to that person's profile. And if you continue to communicate with them, it'll make it easier to understand where they're going and where they're going to be coming from. It's not a brush off because of the inclusion of the word you. There's an opportunity for a response, but again, not an obligation that could create that moment of indecision early on. Do I want to talk to this person or not? And so you just say, how are you today?
Yeah. And once they respond, you're going to know exactly what, or you're going to have a better clue as to what their profile is, and you can take it from there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now look, these are greetings. Okay. There's a whole nother cast about what to do with the different responses we might get. And of course, I've told many clients before, the reason sometimes that our initiatives work at clients is because we think through the implications of one person having communication with another one, what that person's going to say, and we create templates and ideas and messages that will help get the point across. And we eliminate the possibility of really off-putting or off-sounding or bad tonal quality messages. But conversations get very complex very, very fast. This is just a start. But if you believe that first impressions make a difference, let's agree that a small change in the way we speak to other people could have a big difference in terms of our first impression. And we ought not to throw that away if it's not that hard to change. And I don't think anything we've suggested here today, partner, is a big change. This cast is just those few important first words that are necessary to greet our associates, which happens all the time at work, and also those people we meet in our professional and personal travels.
Good.
I want me to do the wrap up?
Yeah, would you? Please.
Yeah.
Thank
So
you.
remember, folks, greet people based on your the recipient's profile, who you're meeting, and or rule number 1, which is greet them the way they greet you. For high D's, short and flat and use a period. For IIs, smile, ask a question and make it general. For high S's, smile and ask a specific question. For high C's, be short. D's and C's, the best is morning and afternoon with a period at the end of it. And if you don't know, say, don't ask, say, how are you today? That's it.
Awesome. All right, my friend.
Thanks, partner.
Thank you. We'll see you. All right, everyone. That's it. Hope you enjoyed it. So until next week, have a great one. So long, folks.